Hey guys, welcome back to another video here on Toned In Entertainment, where we love pop culture. Today, it's time for some comic book reviews. Now this week here on the channel, I'm gonna do things just a little bit different due to some time constraints over this weekend. I'm actually gonna do all my comic book reviews here in one video. And guys, we have some really great stuff this week. Now, if you guys like this format of video, definitely leave me a comment below because I can keep doing this way, just make one video each week. Or if you guys like the small individual 2.5 to 4 minute videos of each comic, leave me a comment below and I can keep doing it that way as well. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get on with my comic book reviews, and we're gonna start with a video game icon as we look at Mega Man Fully Charged, issue number 1. Jumping straight out of your video game console and onto the shelves of your comic book store, Boom Studios brings us a new Mega Man comic book. Silicon Valley is dealing with civil unrest as the robots and the humans are at odds with one another. But there's one man who has the guts to go and try to negotiate with these robots. And if you're familiar with the Mega Man video game franchise, you'll already be familiar with Dr. Light. Also, if you're familiar with the Mega Man franchise, you know the Blue Bomber, he has a host of bad guys he has to deal with on a regular basis. Here in this issue though, the main bad guy will be Skullman. When negotiations with Skullman don't go as planned for Dr. Light, it's up to Mega Man to come to his rescue. And even though Mega Man will get the upper hand, it won't be without consequences that Mega Man will have to deal with sooner than later. As this issue comes to the close, we meet Mega Man's sister, and let's just say she doesn't look like she's just gonna be some background character. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm gonna give Mega Man Fully Charged issue number 1 an 8.5 out of 10. The issue was written by Marchisello and Marcus Rineheart, and they do a great job of bringing a two-dimensional video game character to life. They've created this futuristic world that leaves room for a lot of exploration into this universe. They've also thrown in some cameos in this issue that Mega Man fans will definitely get a kick out of. And speaking of cameos, at the end of this issue, Mega Man, it looks like he's going to go seek out his most infamous enemy, but not for the normal reasons that we might know of. The illustration is done by Stefano Simone and the colors by Igor Monte. And to be perfectly honest, when I first started reading this issue, it kind of threw me for a loop as the world they created looks a bit different than what I was expecting. But as I got through the pages, the artwork, it began to grow on me and I ended up enjoying it for the world they have created. By far my favorite scene is when Mega Man infiltrates Skullman's base. Now, issue number 1 of Mega Man Fully Charged was a great kickoff to this new series. If you're fans of the Blue Bomber, I definitely recommend you guys checking this one out. Now, on to our next comic book review, and that's the Fantastic Four Antithesis, issue number 1. Now, this issue wasn't even on my list to pick up this week, but the cover intrigued me, and the fact that it wasn't set in the Empire universe is what made my decision to give this one a shot, and I'm glad I did. The story here is by Mark Waid and Neal Adams, and they don't hesitate to jumpstart the issue with action as the Fantastic Four are battling it out against Annihilus, who has escaped from the negative zone, and they will have to try and stop him before he ravages the city. And if having to do with a supervillain isn't enough for the Fantastic Four, they will also have to do with a meteor of unknown composition rocketing towards their city. The Fantastic Four will have to maximize their teamwork in order to stop this object from wiping out dozens of city blocks. And when the object does make a crash landing, it's none other than the Silver Surfer, who has come down to Earth with a shocking revelation. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm gonna give Fantastic Four Antithesis issue number 1 an 8 out of 10. It's a very fun and entertaining issue, and when we get to the end, we're left with a big, intriguing mystery. The inks here are done by Mark Farmer, and the color artist is Laura Martin, and they have done a great job of creating a fun, vibrant, and action-packed adventure from start to finish. Now, I'm reviewing this issue as a person who is familiar with the Fantastic Four and their universe, and I like the characters, but don't consider myself a hardcore fan of the franchise. And with that being said, I think if you're a fan of the Fantastic Four in comic books, well, you've probably already picked this one up. But even if you're just a casual fan like I am, I think you can go right into the series and have a good time. It's a really fun read, and I'm definitely excited to see what happens in issue number 2. Now, on to the next comic book review, and that's going to be Spawn, issue 309. Much like the previous comic with the Fantastic Four, Spawn is a character I haven't followed much in comics, but I thought I would give this issue a shot. As an outsider, while the dialogue is good, the art is also well done, but when I was done, I just felt a bit confused by what was all going on. There are several different Spawns introduced in different time periods and with different moments. And while we do meet various Spawns here in this issue, my personal favorite is She-Spawn's story in Tokyo, Japan. And I think that's the one thing that helped keep my interest was the ever-changing characters and scenes. Now, I do enjoy a story where I might not know what's gonna come next, but to be honest, as I read through this issue, I really had little investment in this story. Now, reviewing Spawn here as an outsider, I'm gonna give this issue a 6 out of 10. It was definitely my least favorite comic this week. Now, if you're a fan of the Spawn comic book series, did you enjoy this issue? And are there issues I should go back and read to get all caught up into what's going on with Spawn here in present day? Or is it just too complicated that the average person who jumps into Spawn might not get? Definitely leave me a comment below and let me know what you guys think of the Spawn comic book series. Now, on to the next review, and this was the comic I was actually most excited for, and that's the Mars Attacks Red Sonja comic book crossover, issue number 1. This issue is called Angry Red Planet Part 1, and going into this comic, I'm a fan of the Mars Attack movie, and that's what got me to pick up this issue. The opening teases us of Martians invading Earth in present day, but the real focus of the story will take place during the Hyberian Age. There's a preview of the Martians and how they lead a peaceful and technologically advanced life on the Red Planet, led by their Martian Emperor, who enjoys a life of peace and tranquility. But his chief advisor Xer has a much different vision when they come to Earth. The Martians waste no time in taking over an area that once stood as Castle Brisden, either slaying the people that live there or having them flee in fear of their lives. Now enter Red Sonja, who might be the humans' only chance at survival. The Martian invaders end up catching up to Red Sonja and the people who sought out safety. And the Martians here are quick to show off just how technologically advanced their toys are. But Red Sonja has no problem showing the Martians just how much damage she can do with a simple blade. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm gonna give Mars Attacks Red Sonja issue number 1 an 8.5 out of 10. I was expecting wacky and weird fun, and that's exactly what I got by writer John Layman. The one thing that holds this issue from getting a higher score is some of the art seems rushed and can be kind of distracting at times. But when it comes to the action scenes is when the art by Franz Strucken and color by Valentina Brisky is at its best. I thought the issue had a lot of really good setup and was well paced and left me wondering just how many aliens have actually invaded and how will Red Sonja and her friends deal with them moving forward. Now, Mars Attacks Red Sonja was definitely a great kickoff to this new series, and I'm definitely on board. I can't wait for September for issue number 2 to come out. It was definitely my most anticipated comic of the week, and it didn't let me down. Now let's get on to the next comic, which was probably most people's most anticipated comic of the week, and that was Batman 3 Jokers. And when I say that Batman 3 Jokers might be the most anticipated comic of the week, I say this because of how many copies my comic book store had in stock. But does it live up to these high expectations? I think it does. As you can see here, there's a pretty hefty story here. The Joker is the master of mind games, and here in this issue, he really looks like he's ready to play every card in his deck. From the Commissioner to Red Hood, Batgirl, and Batman, the Clown Prince has Gotham's finest scratching their heads at first, or just getting downright frustrated, causing them to essentially do stupid things to throw them off their game. And I'm not really going to spoil any of the story here, but there are Joker sharks. How can you ask for anything more? On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm gonna give Batman 3 Jokers a 9.5 out of 10 and his runner-up as my pick of the week. The writing by Jeff Johns is extremely captivating. It kept me intrigued, in suspense, it made me laugh, and most importantly, when this issue ends, it had me wanting more. The illustrations by Jason Fabok and the color by Brad Anderson is stellar. From the flashbacks, to the fight scenes, to the faces of the Joker's victims, and yes, to the Joker sharks, it truly is a work of art. Now, whether you're a Batman, a Joker, a DC Comics, or just a comic book fan in general, Three Jokers is definitely worth your time and money. This was such a great opening issue. I can't see how anybody doesn't like this story. I absolutely loved it. I definitely want more, and I can't wait for book number 2 to come out. Now, while this comic was my runner-up, my official pick of the week goes to Bliss, issue number 2. When I picked up issue number 1 of Bliss last month, I was enthralled. And here in issue 2, the story by John Lewis and the art by Caitlin Yarsky is even better than issue number 1. The character of Benton has caused an immense amount of pain and loss, and he's a character you should really despise, but at the same time, he's done it all to make sure his sick son Perry gets the treatment to survive. And while he's tried to keep what he's been doing a secret from his family, Benton's wife Mabel knows he's been doing something he probably shouldn't, as the medical bills just seem to disappear. Once again, this issue is shown mostly through flashbacks. And once again, here in present day, Perry is still in court defending his dad from the angry out for blood mob. While the people of this town and even the judge herself believe Benton to be the big kahuna of Bliss, they get an unexpected guest who's willing to testify if he gets protection from some of the higher-ups that rank higher than Perry's dad. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm gonna give Bliss issue number 2 also a 9.5 out of 10. But what edges this out as my pick of the week is the originality here in this comic. There's some really great father and son moments here that really have you wanting everything just to work out for them and to be a happy family. And even though we know Benton will eventually be caught, the road in which he travels is captivating. And let's talk about the art here. The way that they show the flashbacks of Benton is nothing short of brilliant. If you haven't done so, go get yourself a copy of Bliss issue number 1 and then dive into issue number 2 so that when September 23rd rolls around, you'll be ready for more Bliss. Alright guys, well that's going to do it for this week in comic book reviews. I think out of the 6 issues I picked up, 5 were really great and really fun. I think the only weak link was Spawn, but maybe because I'm not familiar with this universe. Now, out of these 6 issues, did you guys read any of them, and which one was your personal favorite? And what comics came out this week did you pick up that I didn't, that I maybe should check out in the future? Alright guys, if you like comic book reviews like this, make sure you subscribe here to Toned In Entertainment for future videos.
Subscribe to the channel. Do it. Go now. Do it now.